Your body whispers before it screams. And the question is, are you listening? Or are you waiting until the signals get so loud that you can't ignore them anymore? Welcome to Healing Beyond the Symptoms, the podcast that helps people discover the root causes of their health struggles and take back control with science, strategy, and self-awareness. I'm Dr. Leah Hahn, a chiropractor and functional wellness doctor who believes that true healing starts beneath the surface. So let's dive in. So many people push through their stress signals. Tension headaches, restless nights, constant fatigue, and we tell ourselves, I'll deal with it later. But later usually means the signals get louder, pain that doesn't go away, hormones out of balance, anxiety creeping in, digestion off track. Ignoring stress doesn't make it disappear, it makes it multiply. And the good news is, your body is always talking, and when you learn to listen, you can catch the signals before they turn into something bigger. So I really want to talk today about the body's early warning system. Stress signals by tension building up within the body. And if you can really start to pay attention to where this is building up, it can make a huge difference in terms of just your mind and body connection. One of the things that happens with stress is that it really disconnects our mind's awareness of what's happening within our body. So the body will speak louder and louder until we actually listen. So when you start to notice that you have tension chronically in your jaw, or you have tension chronically at the base of your skull, or it's building up in your shoulders or your low back, this is information that your body is trying to tell you. And if you don't listen, it will turn into a bigger problem until you do. The next thing that I really want you to look at is what your breathing is like. Do you take deep breaths throughout the day? When was the last time you took a deep breath? Do you have shallow or rapid breathing? Having a dysregulated breathing pattern is a sign that your body is moved into stress physiology. It's in that fight or flight side of the nervous system. Another thing I want you to look at is, what is your energy level like throughout the day? Do you have really anxious energy happening when you first wake up in the morning? That could indicate that you have really high cortisol levels. Do you go through an afternoon crash every day where as soon as you eat lunch, you can't help but feel like you need to take a nap? That's another sign that your body's not regulating its stress efficiently throughout the day. But the thing is just like a check engine light in your car, it may be so easy to ignore at first, but so costly if it's neglected. These signals aren't inconveniences, they're communication. Your body is asking for help, and it's your job to pay attention. So when we get into a state of chronic stress and we have that chronic level of tension within our body, the body is never really getting a chance to reset. And this has a huge physiological impact within our system. I just want to do a quick reminder of what happens within the nervous system when we're stressed, but please go back to episode 1 where we really explored that on a deeper level. But just remember, we have the autonomic side of the nervous system. It has the sympathetic side, which is the fight or flight physiology, and then we have the parasympathetic side, which is our rest and digest. When we're activating our stress response on a continuous basis, we're living out of fight or flight physiology, and that has consequences within our body. So just noticing the tension or the fatigue, or even that your emotions feel really off, is just a signal that you may be living out of fight or flight. And that has, again, the consequences of increasing our cortisol levels, our stress hormones, and that can increase inflammation within the body. How that inflammation is targeted within your system really depends on your lifestyle and your genetics. So for some people, chronic stress is going to affect their immune system deeply. For other people, that chronic level of stress and inflammation is affecting their digestion or their reproductive system or even their cardiovascular system. Part of what happens when we have stress physiology is our heart rate increases, our rate of respiration increases. And if that system is being so overutilized throughout the day, that has a long-term impact in terms of how the heart and the lungs are functioning. So we really want to look at the whole picture. Another thing that can happen is we can have blood sugar imbalances. When we have high cortisol due to stress and it's happening every single day and it's not being released, it increases our blood sugar. So I have clients who come into our office who are pre-diabetic, and I look at maybe a dietary journal and I look at what they're eating and how they're living their life, and it's not a root cause of actually what they're consuming. The root cause is that they have high stress, they have chronic stress that's never been addressed, and they have elevated blood sugar that we really need to change the stress physiology within their body so that they can actually heal and recover. And that can really change the picture of prediabetes. It may look like brain fog, irritability, inability to focus, mood swings. We talked about the physical impact of this, but what's the emotional impact? When you're living under chronic stress, you're much more likely to experience negative emotions. One of the things that I'm going to really talk about in the future is how the shape and the tone and the tension that is affecting the spine really impacts our emotions. When our spine doesn't move appropriately, we're much more likely to experience negative emotion. So this may look like anxiety or fear or feeling the need to control everything around us. And that can have a lot to do with our mindset. It can have a lot to do with our conditioning that happens throughout our childhood and as we age. But it also can just have to do with the amount of chronic stress that the system is under. So again, we want to get to the root of this. We want to get to the chronic stress physiology to really shift not only the physical state of someone's being, but also the emotional state. So I want to tell you a story about a patient that I worked with that came into our office in a place where she had ignored the building level of stress for years. It had started with migraines. The migraines were pretty intense and she would lose her vision. But it got to the point where she actually developed an autoimmune condition. She ignored the stress signals that her body was giving her for so long that she started to develop what I would call immune system dysregulation. Her body started to attack itself and she developed rheumatoid arthritis. So I think it's so important to realize that if we can actually pay attention to our body, the small things that are happening or the things that are maybe easy for us to brush off, or we think that, oh, that's just a normal thing to deal with, it's really important to get ahead of those things. And so when I really look at this, I want you to think about this from thinking of your warning signals in your body that can go from a whisper to a shout. There's a whole progression of ignored stress that happens. The first one is that we may hear whispers. We may have mild symptoms that are easy to brush off that become warning signs. They start to be recurring patterns that are affecting our daily life, affecting our emotional well-being, affecting our physical well-being. That can actually lead, just like it did to one of my patients, for a complete breakdown, where the body is forcing you to stop. It's dealing with illness, with injury, with burnout, chronic fatigue. You're at a place where it's going to be much more difficult to actually restore your sense of well-being. It doesn't mean that it can't happen, but it's a much longer journey back to health at that point. So I want to reframe this situation for you. This isn't a failure. It's your body's brilliance. Your body is doing everything it can to protect you until you finally listen. There are really important things that you can do to start to listen and respond to your body and really listen to the signals that it's telling you. The first thing I want you to think about is really starting the act of pausing. When you start to notice tension building, fatigue building, or maybe that your just emotions feel really off, I want you to slow down. Today's entire culture is built on how much we can get done, how productive we can be, how do we go from one thing to the next, and that it will never be conducive to healing. In order to heal, you're going to have to learn how to slow down. This may look like taking breaks throughout your day. It can look like deciding that you're done with work. Maybe you have to quit a little earlier that day so you have time to rest and restore and recover for the next day. It can look like taking walks. It can look like meditation breaks. It can look like taking a break from your computer and taking a breathing break. There's so many things that you can do to create a pause. What will happen when you create a pause is that you can have a space for awareness. I need you to start to be aware of your body, aware of your thoughts in order to go into healing mode, and awareness is the first step. The next thing I want you to think about is breathing. Breathing is an incredibly powerful tool in terms of helping to regulate the nervous system. One of the most important things you can always remember, you're going to hear me say it over and over again, is that inhales are super important, but your exhale is even more important. I can have you think of a 4-7-8 breathing pattern. I can have you think of square breathing. There are so many different ways that you can incorporate nice long exhales. My favorite is probably the 4-7-8 breathing because it will teach you how to create that longer exhale to activate the parasympathetic side or the rest and digest side of the nervous system. The next thing I want you to do is think about checking in. Ask yourself, not in a demanding way, but in a really curious way, how am I doing right now? Am I breathing? Am I taking adequate time to rest my eyes away from the computer? Do I need to take a break just to give myself a mental break? Where is the state that you're currently at? And what do we need to do in order for you to be able to go into restore and rest mode? So the role of the nervous system, we have to remember that it creates safety within the body. When we create safety, we have awareness, so our body's not having to scream at us to tell us what we need. We can listen to those gentle whispers that can make a dramatic difference in terms of our well-being. When we go into that state of safety, we can be an observer. We can create enough quiet to actually listen to ourselves and honor our needs. So there's a gentle reminder here. Stress signals aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to guide you back to balance. As a homework assignment for today, I would love for you to start a simple body journal. Jot down when you feel tired, when you feel tense or wired, and notice these patterns. There are so many things that you can start to create awareness with that will make a massive difference, again, in terms of your health and well-being. But again, awareness is the first step. And remember that responding earlier is always easier than recovering later. Thanks for joining me today on Healing Beyond the Symptoms. If you're tired of being tired and you know something deeper is going on, your body may be asking for nervous system healing, not just another night of sleep. I'd love to help you explore this in a safe and personalized way. Book a wellness consultation at bodyandbalancechiropractic.com. And together we'll look beneath the surface and discover what your body truly needs to restore energy and resilience. Until next time, remember, your body is brilliant. You are not broken. And healing starts with listening in.